welcome everybody back to Agree to Disagree Sports Talk with Zach and Booch. Today, Zach is not here. I have a guest host with us. Preston, how are you?
Doing good, Booch. Happy to be here, man. Real happy to be here.
We are happy to have you. What a week it's been. What a weekend we had last week. It was another, I say it every episode, it's another crazy college football Saturday. We have some big headlines we need to get to. We're going to talk about Odell Beckham. We're going to talk a little iffy case there with Derrick Rose. We're also going to talk about coaches that we think are big-time potential job openings. We're going to talk all about that. Then we're obviously going to go into our review segment like we always do. We're doing another Who Got After It segment. Preston, you'll enjoy that one. And then we'll go into our preview. And then finally, my favorite part, our quick score segment. What do you think?
Let's get into it.
Odell Beckham. I said it last week. He's being ridiculous. It's time for him to realize that every eye in the NFL world is on him right now, and if he continues this madness, it won't be good for him.
Booch, I think there's a fine line between passion and being simply childish. As football fans, I think we can all say we love watching him play, but his after-the-play antics are a problem, and they're not conducive to a championship environment, which is why I think a lot of the Giants fans are pretty upset with him right now.
Oh, I completely agree with you. It's another Johnny Manziel, wouldn't you say?
100%. It's just on the field with Odell.
It is.
It's on the field. It's not off the field.
He kicked a football net. Like, who does that?
And then he's doing the thing where after every touchdown now, he goes and he hugs and he kisses and he proposes to the net.
It's gross. It really is. I'm tired of watching it. Now, Derrick Rose. But yeah, you take this.
Derrick Rose is under trial right now. It's a real shady case. I think the thing that everybody's looking forward to here, Booj, is seeing how this affects the Knicks, how this affects their season. And I think the fans are just kind of wanting to move past all of this and really just get into playing and hope that this doesn't affect their team too much.
Yeah, just a lot of off-court, off-field issues there. They just need to focus on the game and not focus on what their off-field issues are. Now let's talk about big-time potential job openings. Who's in the hot seat, football-wise? B.A., what's your first one?
Booge, I think my first guy that I would have to look to initially is Will Muschamp in South Carolina. He came into the Gamecock program with such high expectations, and Booge, he just hadn't gotten it done. And I think that
I agree.
I don't think he's on the hot seat this first year, but going into next season.
It's a potential.
Yeah, but going into next season, I think that the Gamecock fans are really going to need to see some improvement because they've got losses to Mississippi State, who lost to South Alabama, mind you, and Kentucky. And a loss to Kentucky is just unacceptable to that fan base. So
I agree.
I think that going into next season, he could be on the hot seat.
My pick might seem a little bit biased to all those Auburn fans out there, but yes, it's Gus Malzahn. Gus Malzahn's on a hot seat. I hear people say all the time, Auburn is back. So my question to Auburn fans, who have y'all beaten? Name me one team that y'all have beaten. Not Prayer and Jordan Hare type of beaten. No, who have you beaten? And that is zero. You haven't beaten one team, in my eyes, that says, hey, Auburn is in fact back. You beat Arkansas State. You lost to Texas A&M. You beat La Monroe. You scooted by LSU. Then you lost to Clemson the first week, which is a tough game for anybody. Then they beat a terrible Mississippi State team. One of the worst teams in college football. Now they are worse than Vandy after this past week. So, Auburn, your coach is in the hot seat. You won the national championship a few years ago. That was what? After 58 years of waiting?
And that was under a different head coach.
And that was under a different head coach with one player?
100%.
That was the whole team? I'm sorry. Auburn, your coach is going to be fired if he doesn't beat Arkansas this week and if he doesn't beat Ole Miss in a few weeks. I'm sorry. Preston, what's your next one?
Booge, my second one is not a guy that's on the hot seat, but a guy that everybody wants. And everybody seems to be talking about is Coach P.J. Fleck from Western Michigan. You see all these Twitter accounts talking about get him to X school or Y school. Everybody wants him, but in my opinion, nobody's going to get it. Nobody's going to get him. P.J. Fleck has built WMU from the worst football team in college football to a bowl victory last year. He has taken them to being ranked for the first time in school history. Frankly, undefeated and on the rise. And I think that P.J. Fleck does not want to use Western Michigan as a stepping stone, but I think he wants to use that as a destination. I think he wants to build that program up. He always says row the boat. No other school is going to let him take over the entire mantra of the program like that. Western Michigan is his home. Western Michigan is where he's going to State.
Row your boat gently down that stream. Merrily, merrily, life's but a dream. But not for Orgeron. Orgeron is on the hot seat. He has yet to win the LSU job. His seat will be hot until after the season. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. All you LSU fans saying, hey, Orgeron's our coach. Orgeron's our coach. No, he's your coach until January. That's when the decision will be made. Unless there are three things that need to happen. Number one, he has to beat Alabama. Zach said it the first episode. Number two, he has to go to a bowl game. And number three, he cannot lose another game. If he loses another game, it's over. Orgeron, you're out. He cannot lose another game. Very simple. Now, Preston, what are your thoughts on Brian Kelly?
Booge, Brian Kelly, when he was brought into the Notre Dame football program, they were expecting to get back to their winning ways. Their winning ways being the Lou Holtz days of the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. They were expecting Brian Kelly to take them back to that prestige. And Booge, it just hadn't worked like that.
It hasn't happened.
It hasn't. Ever since Charlie Weiss, they kicked Charlie Weiss to the curb. They brought in Brian Kelly. He was supposed to be new and improved. And honestly, Booge, in my opinion, he hadn't done any better at all.
He's old and used.
100%. And he just, that Notre Dame fan base is not going to put up with that. They put up with losing for too long. They're not used to that. They are a prestigious program. They're going to be looking to bring
Didn't
in
they play in the
somebody.
national championship just a few years ago?
Yes.
And they were demolished.
By the Alabama Crimson Tide, Booge.
Yes, sir.
But who wouldn't have been demolished by that Alabama team?
That's
Let's
true.
be honest.
Let's just be
we
honest
can't really
here.
hold that against Brian Kelly.
Enough with the past. Now we're going to go into our review segment. Preston, I'm going to let you take over Ohio State, Wisconsin.
Ohio State was victorious over the Badgers 30-23. And in this game, it was kind of iffy at the beginning for Ohio State. JT Barrett started off really slow, but he made a recovery to bring the Buckeyes back in the second half. JT Barrett ended up going 17 for 29 for 226 yards and a TD, but he also threw an interception. But to make up for that interception, Booch, he also led the team in rushing at 21 carries for 92 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is better than a lot of the running backs in college football this week. So I think he kind of made up for it. Booch, Wisconsin showed a great first half in this one, and they went into halftime up 16-6 on the Buckeyes. But then they allowed Ohio State to come back in the second half by turning the ball over twice and only putting the ball in the end zone once. They had some second half woes on offense, and I think that that's something they're going to have to end up looking into when it comes to film this week. They're going to have to diagnose what happened there and fix those issues. And in overtime, Ohio State had the first possession. They scored a touchdown. And then the offensive woes continued for the Badgers as their quarterback took a sack on fourth down, 4th and goal. And the Buckeyes snuck away with a victory. And that's just the one place that you can't take a sack, in my opinion. And again, it's one of those offensive issues that I believe they're going to have to go back, really put some thought into, and fix before this next upcoming week.
Yeah, for those listeners out there asking me, why didn't I have anything to say about Ohio State and Wisconsin, to be honest, I just don't care. Miami versus UNC. Yeah, this was a disappointing game for me. I really like Mark Richt and what he's done with Miami so far. Give him a year or two, and Miami will be a team to watch out for. This one was definitely disappointing. Hopefully, we'll see something different next year.
Booge, let me say this: Miami is not back. They're not.
Yeah, you're right. I'm going to officially take that back. I'll just completely scratch what I said a few weeks ago. Miami is definitely not back. But give them a year or two under Mark Richt.
Now, I will say, you're right on that. Mark Richt has them well on their way, but they need a lot of work. Trubisky picked the Canes secondary apart. They need serious defensive work. And then Brad Kaya, when pressure was applied, went a measly 16 for 31 with no touchdown. You can't do that and expect to win games. However, I think Mark Richt does have them on their way. They are getting there. They're better than they have been. But Booge, let me say again, they are certainly not back.
Oh, I agree. Now it's time for a game I've been waiting for all season long. Florida, Mizzou. This wasn't a surprise. I wanted Florida to win. I want Florida to get to the SEC championship. I love watching Florida play in that SEC championship game, and this is one of the games that they had to get past. They did handsomely. Mizzou, I think they had a couple good years, but that's over. I don't see Mizzou being a competitor for a while. Not at all.
Booge, this was an interesting game to watch because Florida's running game had to pick up the serious slack of Luke Del Rio, who was a mere 18 for 38 for 236 yards, 1 touchdown, but he threw 3 interceptions. The Gators' running game had a great showing, though. Both LaMichael Perrine and Jordan Scarlett both ran for over 100 yards, 11 and 12 carries, respectively. Scarlett added a TD. And on the other side, Missouri's quarterback Drew Lock was an abysmal 4 for 18, 39 yards.
4 for 18.
And 2 pick sixes, Booch. And then they brought in the sophomore quarterback Marvin Zanders, who went 3 for 4 for 59 yards, so in 3 completions, threw for more yards than Drew Lock did all game.
All game.
And no interceptions, which I think is what the Tigers are looking for here. What does this mean for the Tigers and their starting quarterback situation? And do you think we're going to see Missouri make a change from Drew Lock, or do you think they're going to give him a chance to redeem himself?
You know it's bad when your coach takes your starting quarterback out of the game. It's bad for Missouri. Yeah, but starting quarterback, I think he's done. I really do.
I mean, Marvin Zanders came in. He had poise and moxie in the pocket, looked like a veteran, did unbelievable.
Yes, he did. Speaking of quarterback situations, did we have one on Saturday's game? Austin Allen versus Chad Kelly. Both quarterbacks pitted against each other, and boy, was it ever. It was a shootout to the very end, 34-30.
Booch, I've just got to say, what a game. This was simply fantastic football, and I enjoyed every single second. Watching the game, it was like watching the clash of two systems. Ole Miss is a fast-paced, air-it-out kind of offense, the kind that Chip Kelly made famous at Oregon. Meanwhile, Arkansas looks to keep the ball on the ground and dominate time of possession and use the running game to set up their throws. Ole Miss is the other way around. Ole Miss uses their passing game with Chad Kelly to set up the quarterback draw, to set up the running back draw, to kind of spread the defense out.
Fun to watch.
It was unbelievably fun to watch. It was probably the most fun I had watching college football all weekend.
Yeah, it was definitely a good game. Anytime Ole Miss loses, I'm happy.
100%. I'm right there with you, Boots.
Speaking of anytime teams lose, that throw-up orange, that, what do they call it? That garbage truck convention.
I believe in a movie it was referred to as gaudy orange.
Gaudy orange. Alabama versus Tennessee. What a game this was. I had so much fun watching it. I love watching Tennessee lose, and especially this game. I told you last week it's going to be Jalen Hurts. He is the real deal, except his throwing that comes with practice, comes with coaching. We're going to get there. Great runner. He is the real deal. He's calm. He's collected. Any other quarterback would have seemed nervous to be in that type of garbage convention environment. But Jalen kept his cool. He was struggling in the passing game. Alabama's defense was on point, lights out.
Booj, I think the calling card for Bama, like you're saying, continues to be their defense.
Oh, yeah.
And their special teams who, first of all, Alabama leads the nation in non-offensive touchdowns at 10. That's incredible. Talk about a help to a freshman quarterback. However, Jalen Hurts led Alabama to 594 yards of offense.
Insane.
Insane. While the Vols only had 163. Now, I just you're not going to win it. You're not going to win many games in the SEC posting 163 yards of offense.
Nope.
The defense of Alabama only allowed 32 yards of rushing to the Vols, while the men in orange allowed a whopping 438 yards on the ground to the Tide.
You just can't do that in the SEC. You're going to lose every game.
You're going to lose every game,
Every
giving up 438 rushing yards. But speaking of the rushing game for the Tide, it has to be mentioned, Bo Scarborough, after running in that 80-yard touchdown at the end of the game, showing the A on his glove to that Tennessee student, putting it in his face. That's viral on Twitter right now. Booj, I think that's just a case of him being young. He has a lot to learn. He's a freshman in a big game. Obviously made a big run, made a big play to seal the game for the Tide. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it was. I would not have done that myself. That was definitely uncalled for in that type of environment. Yes, it's a rival team. You're playing these throw-up orange colors. You're at a garbage convention, my friend, but we don't do that. That's just not what happens. He's going to see it in film. He's going to look at it. Saban's going to talk to him. That will be handled. You don't have to worry about that.
But Booj, I can't imagine that Nick Saban's too happy about that one.
You know, he was livid.
He was pissed.
He was irate.
I don't see him being too happy about it. But he's young, got a lot to learn. They're probably just going to move forward. He'll be fine.
Yeah, that game was definitely not a game to break your phone over. Now we're going to go into who got after it. We did this segment last week. We're going to do it again. Who got after it? My first pick was obviously Austin Allen. Pig Suey. Go Razorbacks. Austin Allen is a great quarterback. I thought he recovered well from the beating he took during the Alabama game. I thought he recovered. I said last week in our second episode that I thought he wouldn't be able to recover. But did he? And he showed the world that he has what it takes to be a great quarterback in the SEC.
I do believe so, Booj. He recovered not only from the beating he took against Alabama. Let's not forget, he took a beating against Texas A&M,
That's
too.
true.
Who
lost that game.
he lost that game, but he took a lot of hard hits in that one. Piggybacking off you, Booge, no pun intended, because I'm also going with a member of the Hogs here.
Pig Suey.
Pig Suey, Booge. The young sophomore running back, Raleigh Williams III. This week he topped 100 yards for the 4th time this year, and he also added 2 receptions and a receiving touchdown. And I think that we also need to look into Cody Walker, a guy that was splitting a lot of carries with Raleigh Williams, went down with a foot injury. He's out for the year. Williams could be seeing a lot more carries than he already has been, and this year he's already got 785 yards on the ground. And I think that it's shaping up to be a colossal year for the youngster. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. My second who got after it is Jalen Hurts. Nope, I'm just kidding. Bo Scarborough. I chose Bo. He was near the top of the stat sheet at the end of the game, gaining 109 yards on only 5 rush attempts. The bulk of that total was produced during a breathtaking 85-yard touchdown run in the 4th quarter. That helped show why he was the recipient of so much hype before the season. Saban said last Wednesday, I think he's getting more and more confident, and I think he's going to be a factor for us before the season is over. And I completely agree. And I completely agree with what Saban had to say. Texas A&M, watch out for Scarborough. Preston, what is your second and final who got after it?
My second who got after it this week, Booge, was the Oklahoma running back Joe Mixon. He stepped in the absence of Samaje Perine, who exited the game early with an injury. Mixon ran for 88 yards on 19 carries, and he also had 3 receptions for 34 yards and a touchdown. And to top it all off, Booge, the guy tossed a 26-yard touchdown pass as the Sooners rolled to a 38-17 victory over K-State. Now, according to Coach Bob Stoops, Perine is out for at least 2 more weeks. So I'm going to look for Mixon to really shine against 2 of the weaker Big 12 defenses in Texas Tech and Kansas that they're playing in these next 2 weeks. Mixon got after.
Now let's go into the upcoming games tomorrow. Our first preview we're looking at is NC State versus Louisville. This doesn't even need to be discussed. Louisville will blow them away. I know a guy who used to work for NC State, and now I know why he left. NC State, you have no reason to show up on Saturday.
Booge, I'm going to disagree with you. We can agree to disagree.
Preston, the door is to your left. Just grab the knob and turn it to the right, and then pull towards it, and then just walk out. Zach, where are you?
Booge, NC State's coming off a near win at number 4 Clemson, and they really showed themselves and the nation that they are a solid team. They'll be looking to dethrone Louisville. Louisville's got everything to play for. NC State's got nothing to play for. Beating Louisville would make their entire season. I think it's going to be a closer game than you're anticipating.
West Virginia, TCU. You know, I went to TCU's bowl game last year. We're not going to mention it, but Ole Miss, it was bad. Anyway, I'm a little biased since I went there. I even bought a purple shirt. I just think the year TCU has had is a little disappointing. I'm sorry, West Virginia, you're overrated. TCU's going to handle it.
Booge, I'm agreeing with you when you say that West Virginia is overrated, but I think they're going to look to stay undefeated against a TCU team who's had a rough go of it this year. Their 4-2 record may not look bad, but a few disappointing losses to Arkansas and Oklahoma have derailed what many believe could have been the season for them to be a dark horse for the NCAA playoff. I've got West Virginia in this one.
Ole Miss, LSU. Are we discussing who we want to win or who we think is going to win? Because I want LSU to destroy Ole Miss. I'm sorry to all you Ole Miss fans out there who break phones during football games. I hate to say it, but Orgeron is going to embarrass you. Hotty toddy.
Ole Miss is coming to this one beat up after an extremely physical game with Arkansas. And Booge, I don't think we can ignore Leonard Fournette's coming back for the Tigers.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to come back. He's going to come back fired up.
He's going to break a lot of cell phones.
Everybody around him, all of his teammates are fired up. The fan base is fired up.
There's going to be a lot of shattered screens during that game.
And Booge, let me tell you,
glass everywhere.
Fournette's coming back. Everybody's excited about that. Darius Geis, the running back that stepped in for Leonard Fournette, has been running the ball very, very well. So Fournette's going to have a lighter workload, reducing fatigue late in the game for him, which, Booge, could spell disaster for the Rebels.
Boy, oh boy, will there be a lot of burnt trees in Auburn this week. Arkansas versus Auburn. Austin Allen will be the factor of this game. If he has a game like he did against Alabama and Ole Miss, they will win by a touchdown. Auburn has to play lights out on both sides. Their defense has to be on point to win this football game.
I agree, Booge. And again, like you were saying at the beginning of the show, Auburn fans are saying they're back because they beat the worst team in the SEC in Mississippi State.
Exactly.
And Arkansas comes off an impressive performance, posting 30 points against Alabama, and then last week beat Ole Miss.
2 weeks in a row, even though they lost to Alabama, they're coming off
great team performances. Auburn running back Kerryon Johnson has been hurt. His absence at Mississippi State wasn't much noticed. However, against a much more solid opponent in Arkansas, the Tigers definitely need him back. Offensive coordinator Rhett Lashley is, quote, optimistic, unquote, about Johnson's return. But AL.com reports that even though Johnson is participating in practice, his status for Saturday is still questionable. On the other sideline, Austin Allen has started to hit his stride under center for the Hogs. Raleigh Williams has been setting the Razorback backfield on fire. This, plus a good defense that's really starting to come into its own, could prove too much for the Tigers to handle, dude.
Alabama, Texas A&M. I think Alabama has found its groove. I think it's going to be a big shootout between Jalen Hurts versus Trevor Knight. The defense has to be lights out all 4 quarters, all 60 minutes to beat Texas A&M. Trevor Knight needs to play his best game of the season in order to beat Alabama. Seems like people are saying it every week. They have to play their best game. If Trevor Knight does not have his best game, he loses to Alabama. Even if he has his best game, it's still iffy with Alabama's defense, the way they're playing right now.
Booge, Alabama hasn't shown a weakness on defense in a long time, although the last time Trevor Knight was under center against the Tide, he was at Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl, and I'm sure that you try to forget. He went 32 for 44 for 348 yards, 4 TDs, and down the Tide, he picked them apart in that Sugar Bowl. Shocked every bit of Crimson Tide Nation. Booge, is Trevor Knight the kryptonite of that Bama defense, or do you think that they've got him figured out?
He played his best game back in the Sugar Bowl 2 years ago. If he plays his best game this Saturday, it's definitely going to be a challenge for the Alabama defense. But then again, it's Alabama's defense. It's Nick Saban. He's played him once. He knows how to coach against him. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think Alabama takes it. I love quick score segment. We're going to run through these really quickly. Preston, before we get into this, it's been a pleasure to have you on this show. We hope Zach gets well. Hopefully he'll be back next Friday. Preston, I appreciate you coming in and filling in for him. First game, BYU, Boise State. I have Boise State winning 31-17.
Booge, I've got Boise State also pulling this one out, but I've got them winning 38-21, and I'm looking for a big game from Jeremy McNichols.
Oklahoma, Texas Tech, 41-10, Oklahoma.
I've got Oklahoma winning this one 56-14. D.D. Westbrook's too hot for that Texas Tech defense, and Mayfield's showing some serious authority in the air. Oklahoma takes it.
Mississippi State versus Kentucky, 28-17, Kentucky.
Booge, I've got Kentucky scoring 10 less. I've got Mississippi State topping them 28-7. Both teams look to salvage something out of these terrible seasons.
UCF versus UConn, 75-2. UCF takes it.
Booge, I don't know how realistic that one is. I've got UCF winning this one 42-14. I just don't see them scoring over 70. I don't see that.
It has happened before.
It has. And if it does, I'll buy you a meal.
It will happen again. Oregon State, Washington, 45-14, Washington.
I've got Washington winning 42-10. I'm looking for a big week from the Washington quarterback Jake Browning against that weak Oregon State pass defense.
Texas versus Kansas State, 28-10. Kansas takes it.
Texas is going to take this one 35-14. K-State's been very underwhelming this year. Texas looks to get back to winning after 3 straight losses before last week's win against Iowa State.
NC State, Louisville. Louisville destroys them 50-17. It's a massacre.
I've got Louisville winning this one 49-21. And as much as I'd love to say that NC State's going to get it done, I think Lamar Jackson's just going to prove too much for that defense. Louisville picks up the victory.
West Virginia, TCU. TCU takes it 31-27.
West Virginia's got this one 35-10. TCU does not have what it takes to dethrone the undefeated Mountaineers. West Virginia rolls on.
Ole Miss, LSU. LSU takes it 38-34. There will be a lot of high schoolers that will be very happy that Chad Kelly loses. A lot of phones will be broken, screens shattered. It's going to be a great Saturday for LSU tomorrow. 38-34, LSU takes it.
LSU takes this one 28-21. Ole Miss beat up after last week. LSU's got Fournette coming back. Night game in Death Valley. LSU's not going to lose. They're coming up with a victory in this one.
Arkansas at Auburn. 24-17, Arkansas. Arkansas takes it.
Arkansas's taking this one 35-17. They're heating up after posting 30 points on Alabama, who's the best defense in the country, and beating Ole Miss for the 3rd straight year. And Auburn is coming off an underwhelming victory over the Bulldogs in Mississippi State. Kerryon Johnson, their starting running back, still a question mark. Arkansas proves too much for the Tigers in this one.
Texas A&M at Alabama, 41-28. Alabama takes it. Jalen Hurts will have the best game of his career tomorrow afternoon.
Alabama's going to take this one 28-14. Even though Trevor Knight dominated the Tide secondary when he last faced them, Saban's going to have that defense ready. This time around, Bama's going to reign victorious at home.
All right, that's it for episode 3. Preston, I appreciate you coming on and filling in for Zach. Zach will be back on Friday of next week. Remember to follow us at ATD Sports Talk on Twitter and Instagram. We also have a YouTube, Agree to Disagree Sports Talk, and now we're on iTunes. Episode 2 is on iTunes. This will also be uploaded on iTunes. That's Agree to Disagree Sports Talk. Just search it in the podcast section. Preston, it's been a pleasure.
It's been an honor for me to be on Agree to Disagree, Booge. I'm very blessed.
Till next week, this is Agree to Disagree Sports Talk with Zach and Booge.
Right out of the sunset under